episode of AI eDiscovered. And we still have four members in this edition, but we have a substitute special guest in David Horrigan in for Nick, who couldn't make the call this week. So welcome, David.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, and I guess I will kick it off to you to introduce yourself, and we'll go around the horn really quick.
Sounds great. My name is David Horrigan. I'm Discovery Counsel and Legal Education Director at Relativity, and I work on our CLE programs, the ones you see at FEST, the Data Discovery Legal Year in Review, and other publications. And also look out and try to predict the future, which I think is perhaps a risky venture.
Steph?
Sure. So I am Stephanie Clerkin, or based on the email I got earlier, Bethany Clerkin. So someone must have hallucinated when they typed that. I'm Director of Litigation Support at Core Tillery. So I'm on the plaintiff side.
Yeah, and Stephen Herrera. I have filled a variety of shoes, but I have spent the last year in sales at Repario, in eDiscovery broadly, getting to connect with this group on a range of topics from eDiscovery, left and right of the EDRM, DSARS, local, national, global. It's an interesting time, especially with the AI piece we're here to talk about.
Yes, indeed. And Stephanie mentioned hallucinations. And so I had suggested the topic of AI hallucinations and a kind of a lead up to the story I covered last week, because probably for the past, I don't know how many weeks, I probably have been getting probably 2 cases a week sent to me as like, hey, here's a hallucination you can cover. And at a certain point, it's almost like they're not news anymore. But somebody had asked me if there was a repository out there where all the cases had been collected. And about a week and a half or so ago, Judge Andrew J. Peck, sent me a link to a repository that has been created. It's been created, and I will probably botch his name, Damien Charlatan, who has put together a AI hallucinated cases database, and he continues to add to it. So when I covered it a week ago yesterday, there were 149 cases in it, and now it's up to 155. And they're cases not just in the U.S., they're all over the world. They involve lawyers, they involve pro se parties, they involve experts, you name it. And it's pretty comprehensive. And I think this database, which continues to grow, seems to indicate that AI hallucinated cases aren't going away anytime soon.
Doug, I think you make a great point on this. And one of the things is the more things change, the more they stay the same. If you look at the chart here, and as you said, it's up to 155 cases, about half of them are lawyers, half of them are pro se litigants. I think pro se litigants ought to get somewhat of a pass on this. But when people say, oh, you can't trust AI because of all these hallucination cases, that is so wrong. It's just a tool. It depends on how you use the tool. And if you think back, if you're a lawyer or a paralegal doing legal research and you did case law research on any database, or back in the days when we used books to look up cases, you would never, ever file a case with the court without using Shepard's or some other citation index to verify the cases that you found. And it's not surprising that pro se litigants wouldn't know this procedure, but for the lawyers and the legal teams, it's really, really surprising. And I think it's we're going to let ChatGPT do our jobs for us, when in reality, it's just a tool. So if you look at each one of these cases, and we may get into some interesting ones in a moment, there are some been interesting ones all the way around, from MATA all the way on down, but there's a big difference between the legal teams and the pro se litigants, and this should not be an indictment of AI. It should really be an indictment of the legal research process being used.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Recently, Stephanie, yeah. I was just going to say, most people that are probably listening to this are more, advanced, but I was talking to someone who is brand new to the industry. I mean, we're on week 2 of even knowing what eDiscovery is. and AI hallucination came up, and she didn't even know what that meant. And the best example I was able to give her was looking at recipes once. And I remember seeing this, it's probably been a year, but a recipe for chocolate chip cookies involved flour, sugar, chocolate chips, and motor oil. Well, any sane person would realize maybe let's not just blindly follow this recipe, and unless I guess you're feeding your car. But that was hallucination. And it takes some critical thinking to know, hey, that's not right. Don't blindly trust it. And the same goes with, the legal side of things. You can't just blindly assume it's going to be accurate. And I still like that example because it was just so extreme, but it also gets the point across.
I think the Clerkin petrochemical doctrine is a good one we should all follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting. About a week or two ago, I gave a CLE for the Colorado litigation bar, and the rules are already there, and we have a precedent for legal assistance, as we're now calling it, that all non-attorney work product has to be reviewed.
That's a great point. And, one of the last cases I covered in the kitchen sink a couple of weeks ago was an unlicensed law clerk that basically the firm said, oh, it's the law clerk who did it. And one of the things I think you're going to see as kind of the newer generation comes in, they're growing up with these tools and they're being dependent on these tools. And they do think they really can do a lot more than they can in terms of being, of being 100% accurate. And, again, like David said, it's a process problem, not an AI problem. And it's also apples and oranges to compare, this use of AI with other uses of AI, like in our industry, like for, managed review and things of that nature, because I think it's more of a targeted use case. So to me, I think that's one of the things that, I think we're going to, one of the reasons I believe we're never going to see these end, at least anytime soon, is because the younger generations are coming up saying, oh, ChatGPT or Claude, I just pull it in there, get the answer, and I can run with it.
Great point, Doug. And maybe one of these days we'll take the pejorative term non-lawyer out of the rules and everything else, because it just is bad wording. It always has been, and they really ought to change that. But yeah, the point is clear. And Stephen, you made a great point on this. The rules have always been there, and the ABA model rule of professional conduct has Rule 5.1 and Rule 5.3 that deal with this specifically. You can't pass the buck. You're responsible for it. And when we updated this last year, I should say the American Bar Association updated it with Formal Opinion 512 on the use of generative AI tools. It reinforces this, that you can't just blame it on the team. The lawyer filing the brief has got the responsibility for it.
What, Doug, kind of hopping back to the hallucination piece, do you feel like, and I think I charted it as 6. I'm not sure if I heard the number correctly, 6 added in that couple of days between you first checking the database of hallucinations and cases and then just a couple days later. Do you feel like that rate is going to increase or decrease?
Well, it seems like it's definitely increased this year because they're just coming, like I say, I'm getting 2 a week or have been getting 2 a week. And, they're all over the board. We had the AI expert who, he submitted his declaration with hallucinated facts and cases. We've got the clerk. And of course, I did an analysis like about a year and a half ago where I said, there's 1.3 million lawyers in the US, and even if 99.9% of them are doing their job, that's still about 1,300 lawyers who aren't doing their job. So when you add in, pro se parties, you add in, other legal professionals, and you add in experts and what have you, I just don't see it. I see it continuing to be a thing for a while, if not forever.
Oh, yeah, it makes me think back to law school. The blue book was my enemy. I won't be one of those grads that pretends they were natively good at citations. It was probably my least favorite thing in the world. I was a big fan of pre-ChatGPT citation helpers that, of course, I triple checked and everything. But I do see the ways in which law students might need to keep an extra eye out, especially moving from law school into practice, now that they have that extra kind of third leg helping them run, how are they going to bridge that gap from the expectations, especially of large law firms that are seeing some of these decisions come down and where they need to land?
Yeah, and I mean they're all over the board. Small law firms, large law firms. It's happening everywhere. So very
I thought
surprising.
one of the interesting cases that came down there was the Buckeye Trust case out of India, where it was the judge who had the hallucinated citation. Of course, the judge
Forgot
was
about
relying
judges.
on
Yeah.
what had submitted by counsel, but it was an interesting case. And so you've got to really watch these things. And something, Doug, I've mentioned it on a panel you and I were on, where what the Delaware court did in December. Delaware Supreme Court had AI guidelines that covers everyone entering the courthouse, down from the volunteers, all litigants, the judges as well. So we can all learn from these lessons that we're being taught these days.
Yep, I think so. And hopefully, eventually, everyone who needs to learn these lessons will. So I think that's a wrap for this time, and very interesting discussion. And we'll see you all next time on the AI eDiscovered podcast.